TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, the IDF confronts separate threats and hostilities as Iran and its regional proxies remain vocally determined to destroy the state of Israel. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant asserts Jerusalem's unyielding resolve to eliminate all of Hamas's leadership. CIA Director William Burns stresses ongoing efforts to reach an outline for a hostage release deal. Israel continues to confront threats on multiple fronts, with a deadly terror attack and separate hostilities reported over the weekend. During the early hours of Sunday morning, a Jordanian truck driver crossed the commercial Allenby border crossing with a concealed firearm. Upon transit to the Israeli side of the border, the Jordanian truck driver opened fire toward Israeli civilians, murdering 3 before Israeli forces eliminated the terrorist at the scene. A joint investigation into the incident was immediately launched by the ISA and Jordan's intelligence agency Al-Muhabarat, identifying the assailant responsible for the act of terror as Maher Diab Hussein Al-Jazi Al-Hawaitat. The identity of the terrorist came as a surprise, since he is a member of one of the southern Jordanian Bedouin tribes that are known to be loyal to the Hashemite monarchy, with no ancestral affiliation whatsoever to Palestinians, who make up over 77% of the kingdom's demography. With that being said, following the deadly attack, hundreds of Palestinian supporters and operatives of the Muslim Brotherhood staged a procession in support of the Jordanian terrorist.
From Syria to northern Iraq, and from Libya to Somalia, our armed forces honorably fulfill their duties everywhere they are tasked.
We have not and will not give in to those trying to confine us to shallow waters. We will think Turkey-centered, but we will keep our vision broad enough to encompass the world.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in opening remarks at his weekly cabinet meeting on Sunday, relayed the government's condolences to the families of the victims.
This is a difficult day. An abhorrent terrorist murdered 3 of our citizens in cold blood at the Allenby Bridge. On behalf of the government and myself, I send condolences to the families of those who were murdered.
The Israeli premier went on to stress, amid widespread protests in both Tel Aviv and Jerusalem over the weekend, that Iran's axis of evil, which continues to engage Israel on multiple fronts, does not differentiate between one Israeli to another.
We are surrounded by a murderous ideology led by Iran's axis of evil. In recent days, abhorrent terrorists murdered 6 of our hostages and 3 Israel police officers in cold blood. The murderers do not differentiate between us. They want to murder us all, right and left, secular and religious, Jews and non-Jews, until the last one. What prevents the destruction of our people, as in previous times, is the strength of the State of Israel and the power of the IDF, our soldiers' spirit of heroism, the police officers, the men and women of our security forces, the supreme sacrifice of our fallen heroes, and the resilience of our people. These make all the difference. When we stand together, our enemies cannot overcome us. Therefore, their main objective is to divide us and to sow discord among us. Last weekend, the German newspaper Bild published an official Hamas document that revealed its action plan to sow discord among us, to use psychological warfare on the hostages' families, to apply internal and external political pressure on the government of Israel, to tear us apart from within, and to continue the war until further notice, until Israel is defeated.
While the concentrated psychological warfare against Israel's public is evident, Netanyahu stressed further that the majority of the people of Israel do not fall prey into the blatant schemes of the enemy.
The great majority of Israel's citizens are not falling into this Hamas trap. They know that we are fully committed to achieving the objectives of the war, to eliminate Hamas, to return all of our hostages, to ensure that Gaza never again constitutes a threat to Israel, and to return our residents in the north and south securely to their homes. We will stand together. We will wield the sword of David together, and with God's help, we will win.
Meanwhile, in the Gaza Strip, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant toured the Netzarim corridor in the central part of the enclave, where he held a situational assessment with the Southern Command commander, Major General Yaron Finkelman, and other senior field commanders in the vicinity.
In Gaza, we must achieve our two goals, both to eliminate Hamas and to return the hostages, and we are engaging this issue with all of our might. In parallel, we are looking at the entire region, and this means that while you are fighting here in Gaza, we are preparing for anything that can happen in the north. And moving the center of gravity northward can be quick, and it can also include you, within a short time span, and we are prepared for all of these possibilities.
Jerusalem's top defense official continued by asserting Israel's resolve to eliminate Hamas, including its abhorrent leadership that was responsible for the October 7th massacre of last year.
Here in Gaza, we will continue to pressure and strike at Hamas. We will wear it down, and we'll eliminate Hamas. And we will also reach Mohammed Sinwar and also Yahya Sinwar, including all these people, those damned terrorists. We will reach them all. Anyone thinking otherwise should look at Marwan Issa and at Mohammed Deif, as they also thought they were immune. They are not with us today. They made their mistake. Sinwar will also make his mistake, and we will carry out our mission.
It is important to know that while Israel's defense establishment is fighting tirelessly against the Islamist Hamas in the Gaza Strip and elsewhere, mass demonstrations were recorded over the weekend in both Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, in a public outcry for an agreement to be reached diplomatically that would return the hostages from Hamas captivity back home.
We have to shout loud that we have to bring them alive now. We cannot wait any longer. It's been enough, 11 months exactly today, that the people are dying in the tunnel. We cannot let it happen. We cannot go on with our life without thinking about them, without praying that they will come back home with us, and they're not supposed to be there.
I'm very sad that from the 7th of October till now, not all the Israelis are back home. I call everybody in the world, the Israeli government, and everybody in the world who can do something to bring back our hostages, do it now.
While skepticism reigns in Jerusalem regarding prospects for a viable deal, amid Hamas's continued refusal to accept any outline that does not spell Israeli defeat, CIA Director William Burns, who's the leading figure in ongoing talks in Cairo, stressed Washington's continued efforts to reach an outline nonetheless.
We will continue to work as hard as we can with the other mediators on this, because there's no good alternative to getting to that ceasefire and the release of hostages. We have to all remember that despite all of that work that needs to be done, this is ultimately a question of political will. And this gets to your question. Whether or not leaders on both sides are prepared to recognize that enough is enough, and that the time has come finally to make some hard choices and some difficult compromises. I hope profoundly that both of those leaders are going to make that decision, because, as I said, there's an enormous amount at stake here, human as well as...
I think that decision has not been made by the two parties.
Well, I think, we will make this more detailed proposal, I hope, in the next several days, and then we'll see.
During the same panel, which included both the CIA and MI6 directors, the latter was asked about Iran's continued rhetoric regarding its intentions to attack Israel.
What is your assessment of Iran's intentions? Do you think it will still retaliate for the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh? Because it said it would, and we haven't seen that yet.
I suspect they will try, and we won't be able to let our guard down for the type of activity that the Iranians might try and prosecute in that direction. And the Iranians have a whole playbook, a destabilizing playbook around their region, and we see that in their sponsorship of Lebanese Hezbollah, in their support to Hamas, which enabled them to do the horrors that we saw on October the 7th, what they do with the Iraqi Shia militia who are under their control, what they do with the Houthis in terms of disrupting international shipping through the Red Sea.
Shifting gears to Israel's northern front, where IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzia Levi hosted U.S. CENTCOM Commander General Michael Kurilla for an extensive tour of the war-ridden border region, during the course of which they held an elaborate situational assessment in the IDF Northern Command's Underground Operations Center and received an operational briefing, during which they were presented with the IDF's operational plans for Lebanon. In a statement by the IDF spokesperson's unit, it noted that the IDF will continue to deepen its relationship with the U.S. Armed Forces due to the joint commitment to strengthening regional stability and coordination between the two militaries. And while no additional information was given, prior to General Kurilla's visit, General Halevi toured the Northern Front with his Northern Field Commanders, during the course of which he emphasized Israel's preparatory work to deepen its activities against the Iranian proxy Hezbollah.
The IDF is very focused on combat versus Hezbollah. I think that the number of strikes in the past month, operatives eliminated, rockets and infrastructure destroyed, is very high. The Northern Command, with all of the IDF's capabilities, is striking a lot of Hezbollah's capabilities in Lebanon before they can attack us, and at the same time, we are preparing for offensive maneuvers in the field. I think that this combination of very significant strikes on Hezbollah to reduce the threats to the residents in the north, including in the Golan Heights, is very, very significant, together with readiness for an offensive going forward that we are very engaged in.
It is important to know that unidentified aircraft launched a series of aerial strikes against Iranian and Syrian targets in a number of locations throughout Syria overnight. According to the London-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, intensive strikes which Damascus attributed to Israel targeted the Scientific Research Center in Musyaf City, in addition to Iranian installations on Musyaf Wadi al-Uyun Road, Haidar Abbas area, Al-Rawi village, as well as air defense factories near Al-Baida village, killing at least 25 people, including 4 Syrian soldiers and 13 members of Iranian proxies. And while the Damascus regime condemned Israel for the attack, the IDF spokesperson's unit did not confirm or deny its alleged involvement. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to also thank all of our viewers who support TV7 by means of donations. Your monthly support is what allows us to broadcast our regular updates from Israel and beyond. Lastly, not least for sure, I would like to encourage you as ever, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Jonathan Hassan wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.